Hey y'all, what's up? I'm back with another word, and today I'm coming to you guys from the book of 1 Samuel. It's chapter 17, and it's about the story of David and Goliath. And within the verses 33, it says, Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against these Philistines and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." Which goes back to they believed that David wasn't equipped, that he couldn't overtake this giant. But more than anything, it shows his fear of sending David out to fight. He said he's been a warrior since his youth. So because he's been a warrior since his youth, he believed that he was more equipped to win the battle. Right? And a lot of times in life, the same is applied to our lives. Where there's people who've watched, who look at you and size you up by your outer appearance, but they don't know what's placed inside of you. They don't know what God was doing in the background. They don't know how God was preparing David in the backgrounds. They don't know how just because they consider him like a sheep boy, that there were giants and lions and bears and things that he was fighting behind the scenes. But because they didn't see it, they felt like when he was bold enough, because he was bold enough to take on the battle, they felt like, oh, no, he's not equipped. He's a sheep boy. There's no way he can overcome this giant. He hasn't been trained long enough. He don't have the armor. Right? I know y'all heard that saying before, because my mom used to say it to me all the time. Listen, I was growing up, my mom was short, my sister's short, my brother's short, I'm short. So my mom will always tell us, like, don't be scared of nobody. The bigger they are, the harder they'll fall. Listen, if you got a black parent and you ain't never heard that, be so for real. Like, I don't know what your parent was telling you then. Like, did you really come from a black household if you never heard that before? But yeah, so my mom always tell me, like, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So I'm like, like, I'm taking heed of it. So let me just give y'all a little backstory. There was a time where I had to fight this girl, and she was a giant compared to me, literally. And in my head, I'm thinking like, she's pretty big. But do you think that scared me away? No. Do you think I ran? No. Like, what replayed in my mind was my mother's words. The bigger you are, the harder you'll fall. Sure enough, it's true. You'll fall hard. Like, so I'm like, all right, cool. But yeah, let me not get off topic. What the Lord, I believe, is trying to say to us is, no matter the giant that is being placed in front of us, when God has prepared us in the background, we're equipped to fight that fight. Not only are we equipped to fight that fight, but God tells us in his word that he won't ever let our enemies overtake us. God will always be there for us during the battle. In his word, it says, "Behold, I will give your enemies into your hands, and shall do to him as it shall seem good to you." Meaning, God will always deliver you. God will always protect you. You'll always end up on the winning side when you're on God's side. Regardless of how big the giant is, regardless of how big the obstacle is, regardless of who's underestimating you, regardless of who feels like you're unequipped. Listen, you can't be intimidated by the size of the battle. You can't be intimidated by the size of the enemy. You can't be intimidated by the size of the obstacle. I identify myself with a frontline warrior. when you're a frontline warrior, you're ready to take on any battle, regardless of the sides. Imagine you may not be a fighter, but just imagine. Imagine someone come up to you and be like, let's fight. And you run. How are you going to be a frontline fighter if you haven't been walking in the authority that God has given you? If you haven't been walking in the boldness that God has given you? God has told you, he has told us in his word that we are bold. We do not have the spirit of fear. We do not have the spirit of being timid. So why is it that you're cowarding to the same things this world is cowarding to? Do you not see what was placed inside of you? Do you not see how you overlook those things that God had you doing in the background as ways to equip you for the battle that you're facing right now? Can you not see it? One thing about God is he's never going to abandon his child. No. And I can say that because he's never abandoned me in no situation that I was in, right or wrong. I say I'd have to say this. God is calling his children to walk in boldness. God is calling his children to be frontline warriors. God is raising up his daughters who are bold and not afraid to speak about the gospel, who's not ashamed to speak about what it is that God is doing in their life, how God used their past situations to equip them for where they are right now. God is, he's bringing forth that boldness in them and showing them, who is it that I said you are? It's not about what they said you are. It's not about what they said you could do. It's not about what it looks like to them. It's not even about the people that know you, who think they know you, who think they know everything that you've been through. It's not even about them. But who is it that I said you are? If God called you to a fight, you're going to overcome. If God called you to a battle, you're going to overcome. God is an overcomer. God is always on the side of victory. So once again, remind yourself, regardless of what it is that you're faced with on a day-to-day basis, the bigger it is, the harder it'll fall. God got you.